Welcome to the Mark Attwood Show, Adventures in a Cosmic Suit. Well, if you're in the States, happy July the 4th. Happy Independence Day. It's an interesting day, isn't it? I just saw a clip of an old soldier from the States, from the Second World War, saying, "This is not the country we fought for." And some of you might wonder why an Englishman based in Ireland is so interested in the US. Well, it's because if the US falls, we all fall. And, we need to make America great again. And one of the things that's been, because that will have a domino effect on the rest of the world. And one of the things that's been interesting through this process that we've been in for the last couple of years, apart from when the election was stolen, is General Flynn was going around the country and still is going around the country, encouraging people to stand for office from the school board level all the way up to government. And I'm very pleased to have one of those brave people here with me today. Please welcome Melissa Martz. Hello, Melissa.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. So you're a New York attorney come yoga instructor, now standing for Congress in Florida, correct?
Well, so actually I was born in New York, but most of my childhood and all of my adulthood, I've been in Florida. So Florida barred attorney, and then all of the rest was correct. Yes.
Okay, cool. Whereabouts in Florida are you?
I'm in Palm Beach, just a short drive from Mar-a-Lago. And I live in a rural area. I live in Loxahatchee, which is, I live on 2 acres. We're very blessed. It was all very timely with what I call the end of the world as we know it, that, we have a little bit of land and I do some homesteading out here. So that's where we are.
Well, I've got a big soft spot for Florida because I lived in Sarasota for a while.
Oh, okay. Lovely.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Okay. So you're familiar.
Yeah. I love Florida. And it's also possibly the greatest state on earth at the moment with that governor.
Yes, we're very blessed with Governor Ron DeSantis, although I would say Kristi Noem is maybe a close second because she did an amazing job in her state in South Dakota as well. But we're very blessed to at this point have a governor that's standing up for our constitutional rights and really standing up for our children, especially with some of those. I don't know what I assume we're not allowed to say certain things.
Well, I'd like this to go on YouTube so that it reaches the most.
He stood up against the healing modality that just came out for ages 6 months to 5 years old, and didn't order any of that for our children in the state of Florida, which I think he was the only governor that stood up in that way. So, God bless him for protecting our children and actually looking at the science.
Yeah. There's not been, God, has anybody ever seen the disunited states like this?
Well, I'm 36 years old, so not in my lifetime, but I think it's why it's important that we look at our American history. You mentioned why would you be interested, or this day of independence that we celebrate. I think it's important. First of all, I think everyone should be interested, because the more people I talk to, especially from other countries like Venezuela, I talk about a lot. We are the last stop for freedom in a lot of ways. So if America falls, there's really nowhere else to go in a lot of respects when we're talking about all of our constitutional rights, our Second Amendment right, our freedom of speech, on and on. But for Americans, where we're experiencing a lot of infighting, let's say, it's important for us to look at our history, because I would be happy to fight another Revolutionary War. I would not fight another Civil War. I think it's important that we stop the infighting and unite. I'd say that the buzzwords are sovereignty and unification. So standing in our sovereignty and then uniting together. Because when we look at our American history, especially on this day, we have a really powerful history. So, back in 1775, when all of this began, April 19th, 1775, I like to remind people of that first battle. Those first shots that were fired were between approximately 500 colonists and 700 troops, British troops, redcoats that were coming in for the gunpowder of of the colonists. They were coming in to basically disarm them so that they wouldn't be able to fight back because there was such upheaval. And that was the beginning of a long war. They didn't win in that one day. That Declaration of Independence came on July 4th, 1776, but the British didn't recognize us as sovereign until I think it was 1783. That's my rough memory. So, it was a battle. It didn't happen in a day, and the odds were stacked greatly against those colonists. But there was this spirit of sovereignty, and not only that, but in that process of fighting for those liberties, those God-given liberties, they made sure, our founding fathers made sure that we had these documents like our Constitution and our Declaration of Independence, so that we would keep that independence, so that we would keep that liberty, so we would have a way to hold on to our republic. And now we're faced in this time where you have many people who have not read the Constitution, aren't aware of this history, aren't aware of our God-given liberties. But those that are, we have a duty to stand and fight. In our Declaration of Independence, it talks about how we have a duty to push back against the tyranny. When our government becomes tyrannical, we need to bring in the new guard. And part of bringing in that new guard is voting out the old guard and voting in the new guard. So that's part of what I'm trying to have a piece in doing, is to bring in the new guard before we would have to fight a revolutionary war, which I hope it doesn't come to that, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did. And then as far as the division in our country, I think I have a lot of hope as every day that goes on, more and more people are kind of waking up. I know you talk a lot on your platform about the spiritual awakening, which is extremely interconnected. You can't pull one from the other, what's happening in government and what's happening spiritually speaking. But every day, more and more people are coming to that camp, that side of awakening, that side of understanding the sovereignty that we hold as humanity beyond government. Government doesn't give us our sovereignty.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how few people know any of the history of the US, especially within the US. You only have to go onto the Mark Dice channel and look at when him interviewing people in the streets and just asking ridiculous questions and getting these crazy answers back from people in California, which is extremely funny, but it's extremely sad at the same time. And there's also the unpeeling of historical events that people are not really aware of in mainstream, such as the turning of the US into a corporation in 1871 and the takeover of the Federal Reserve in 1913. And, in many ways, the US government has been demonically possessed for well over 100 years.
Yes, you're right. Extreme ignorance, but that's been done on purpose. So we've been kept in the dark. And I count myself among that group. My awakening has really only happened over these last 2 years, I would say. But as you start to peel back the layers of the onion and you realize we've really been in a form of slavery from all aspects. Certainly, I have said many times I support a repeal of our 16th Amendment because it's an unconstitutional amendment which allows our federal government to tax our income. So when you're talking about unconstitutional bodies like our federal, like the IRS, we're taxed unconstitutionally. These are private entities, and so few people in the mainstream, I would have said 2 years ago, were aware of that. We have a lot more people aware today, so that is changing. But yes, your average person is unaware that the whole system is corrupted. The whole system has been infiltrated, and I call people when I speak we need to re-infiltrate our own government. There's a lot of talk on all the truther channels, which I very much appreciate. I watch and take in everything I can, but about a grander plan behind the scenes. And I say to people, well, great, we hope that's true. But at the end of the day, as sovereign beings, we're each responsible for what it is that we're going to do to see the change, to see this corrupt system that's got a stronghold of real evil. There's very few Congress people that I would point to that I would say, yeah, they're really real and they're really working on behalf of the people. Most of them have been handpicked for us from behind the scenes. The best light I could say is they've been picked with money, but I think that they've been picked with even more dubious intention, so that they vote a certain way, so that they're basically puppeted and controlled. So what are we going to do? I think we have a faith in God and a grander plan, but each person, we're each responsible to do our part to go in and take back our country and to restore our republic, which is a governing of we the people.
Couldn't agree with you more. And it takes a lot of courage to stand up and do what you're doing. And are you getting? Is this? Are you? Does every state have somebody in like you standing up, coming from not from a political background, and going, "Well, we've had enough of this. We know what's really going on." And I don't know if we want to talk about what's the depths that this goes to. When Trump said he was going to drain the swamp, that swamp is extremely deep. And that's why this process has taken such a long time. And I think it's trusting the plan is very interesting, looking at it as an observer, because when I saw General Flynn going around trying to rally people and say, like, we need you now, you need to start standing up, you need to go on the school board, you need to stand for office, you need to stand for Congress, it's because we need to replace these people. Are you getting a good feeling about that across the country? And how is it for you? Because you're going up against multi-million-dollar campaigns, aren't you?
Yes. Okay. So I'll try to take it line by line. So I get the impression very strongly, especially in Florida, because those are the people I interact with the most. But I get the impression that we have an unprecedented amount of real patriots, real grassroots campaigns across our country, from school board all the way up to the top. It's certainly true in the area that I live in. We have several people running for school board, commissioner, state and federal representatives that are real people that are not bought and paid for from the establishment. I listened to General Flynn speak at a Club 45, which is a club in Palm Beach. They always have a great speaker there. I listened to him speak over a year ago, and that was the speech that he gave, was a call to action. He also specifically called out women and said that women and mothers and grandmothers were going to be at the forefront of this fight. And that, of course, resonated with me. I was already running, but everything he was saying very much resonated with me. And I think that's accurate. That's why I think people need to get involved. And also, using your own discernment and wisdom. So what are we up against? I mean, it really is a spiritual battle. Yes, I'm up against a bunch of money, but that means nothing to me. I'm blessed that, I think all of us in this time feel the preparation for this time. I feel very prepared for this moment. I have no fear. I have no fear of death. I know we're eternal beings. I'm not worried about, where I'm going or what I'm doing. I feel very protected. So it doesn't faze me or affect me in that way. But yes, carnally speaking, so I'm running a primary. I'm running against a Republican. And this person has come very hard against our Second Amendment rights, has voted against keeping a secure border, has made comments, public documented, screenshotted comments, jokes about having sex with children. So, this is what we're up against. But with that, so I want to be candid about my experience. I do plan to, in some way, whether I don't know how, if I'll write a small book or how I'll get the information out, but the corruption that I thought there was is so much deeper, so much more intricate. It was where I didn't expect it to be. It was even in people I didn't expect it to be in. So our REC, our Republican Party, I mean, the monster is on both sides. So it's not a party line issue. Republican, Democrat, that's just another way that we've been divided against each other. But the monster, as I say, it's on both sides of the aisle. So all of these, even in the truther community, which, I don't want to speak negatively, but I do want to speak the truth, my own experience. That's why I'm grateful when people have me on, because there have been several people that I would have pointed to as strong patriots, some of which didn't want to interview me because they were scared to go up against the establishment, and they didn't want it to affect their good standing within the establishment. And I will say too, I'm a Donald Trump fan. Mostly what got me to kind of wake up and follow him and realize he was working on behalf of good was his stance on child sex trafficking and a lot of the legislation that he helped bring through. That was because that's the space I was working in before I ever decided to run for Congress. I was bringing awareness to child trafficking. So that's what got my attention. And then, I started realizing he's working on behalf of the people. When you look at the hard facts, what he's actually doing. Voted for him twice. I call myself a MAGA candidate, so I want to be clear about that. However, the president endorsed the incumbent, endorsed the guy. Yeah, God, those things are terrible. He endorsed the incumbent, which was really confusing to a lot of people. He also endorsed like Dr. Oz and some other concerning picks. A lot of people speculate there's a method to the madness. I don't know. I don't have any answers for that. But what I'll say is I have been surprised along the way. Things like that's very shocking to me. I've met Donald Trump briefly twice at Mar-a-Lago. I handed him my card. So I won't make excuses for that either. To me, we have to stand on the side of truth and what is right. No matter who is standing with me, I'll keep, standing for that. So what are we up against? Yeah, there's the obvious evil. I would say like that's the obvious, the person that's got $10 million is probably not the representative we want to pick at this point because of what that means. But then there's also been this other kind of pushback that I wasn't expecting. And I just think it's important to note, and that we all use our discernment and keep standing up for what resonates with us as truth and light.
Well, this whole couple of years has been extremely confusing for many people.
Yes.
I call it spiritual quarantine, but that manifesting, those lessons that we learn to manifest in the world that we live in is means that you have to stand up. You have to stand up for truth, wherever that takes you. And like you, my motivation for speaking out online about any of this was always about the children. Once and it's so funny how life takes you through these journeys to get to the point where you have these realizations. I was involved in a very large paedophile lawsuit in the UK, and I saw frontline stuff going on there that was so shocking that once you've dug into this stuff, nothing's going to stop you standing up for truth. Nothing. There's nothing going to stop. Nothing in the world could stop me talking out about this stuff. And when I saw, when I got your email and I went to look at your website and some of your videos, I was like, this is exactly what the world needs. People like you. And it's amazing to see what you're doing. And I commend you for doing it. And I know it's a swamp that you're walking into, and there's going to be, you're already getting censored, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, so I haven't been able to put out an ad on Facebook. I haven't been able to advertise in a normal way. I have a provocative ad that's on my website that people can see. I threw up 4x4 foot signs around the district. Those have in large part been taken down. But what's interesting is that the media grabbed onto that. So it's concerning. It's concerning that you have that's what gets attention. They didn't want to talk to me for the year that I've been running. When I sued Palm Beach County against their unconstitutional mask mandate, the media was reaching out to me. And then those same reporters wanted nothing to do when they found out that I was running for Congress. So yes, extreme censorship. Mel K, God bless her, she interviewed me. And Vandersteel interviewed me. These are people in the truther community. And it's actually amazing like how many people that reached, and it reached the like-minded people versus, maybe making it up on a bigger news station. So it all works out. And I also, one of my prayers is, because I believe our consciousness is connected. I don't think information has to get out in the traditional way. So, I believe because we're connected at the heart and otherwise, part of my prayer has been to kind of transcend this like kind of 3D reality where we're just so used to getting information up on a screen. Well, there's other ways that information can get out. So I'm not worried that it's affecting us. I really do believe in God and the supernatural, but in a very carnal sense, yeah, extreme censorship. And I also wanted to say, because obviously you write poetry and you've mentioned in some of your emails about the power of the pen. I think what's powerful about what I've been able to do over this last year is really just speak to people. So even if I'm not, broadcasted everywhere, when I go out in the community and I'm speaking to a group of people, the power of our words really is the intention and belief behind those words, but it's extremely powerful. Like you say, and that the saying is like the power of the pen is stronger than the sword. So it effectuates change. It's maybe we don't see it right away, but it is absolutely making a difference and making change. I feel really blessed, regardless of what happens on August 23rd, because we also have election fraud, very much so. I feel like there has been work in what we've been doing in this last year with this campaign. There's been a lot of work that's been done, and it's going to go beyond. Like I'm not giving up. I'm not going to stop fighting. I will never not be involved again after kind of the education I've gotten over the last 2 years. And I did want to share another little story that I think is important to give the picture of the corruption that we're kind of dealing with and that I'm dealing with specifically in this district. Roughly 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was approached by a congressional candidate that was running in a neighboring district. So they weren't running in my race, they were running in a neighboring district, Republican candidate. Sat me down with 3 other men and said that he was approached by some Republican group, didn't disclose who, but some group of Republicans with money had come to him and given him a bunch of money so that he could now move into the race that I'm running in. And they were there to ask me to back out and to publicly support him. And if I did this, I would get a position on his team when he got in. And of course I said, no, thank you. And I explained that I have morals and I wanted nothing to do with it. I don't care who the group of people is or how well-intentioned they think they are. I want nothing to do with this historic mantra of pay to play and somebody picks your candidates for you with money. And beyond that, I've had immense support from the district. People want my name on their ballot. It would be unethical for me to 2 months before the election say, well, here, take this guy because he has more money. So these are the kind of things that I have encountered that have just really been mind-blowing. I mean, just absolutely mind-blowing.
It is, well, none of that surprises me. But it is like, life is one great big initiation, and it seems like it doesn't matter what way that you stand up in this fight. It's that these tests will continuously come along. And that doesn't surprise me at all. And it's amazing that you've, this is this. One question I've got for you is, do you think, in your heart, do you think politics is the answer going forward, or do you think this is the thing we've got to do right now because it's the only thing in front of us, and we've got to, play within that game for the time being?
Yes, I think I resonate a little more with the latter because it's kind of how I talk to people about our school system. I pulled my child out. I homeschool now, and there are many parents that want to hold on to our public school system. And I say to them personally, I would like to see it completely collapse. But if you want to hold on to it, then you have to reinfiltrate, and get a hold of it. And then at the time, until you do that, I would pull your kids out. It's really toxic. It's like our schools are no place for children at this point. But I would say would have a similar mentality towards government. I'm a constitutionalist, I'm a patriot, I'm a government minimalist. So if we could keep a resemblance, like there's a reason why we delegate a little bit of power out to our government. There is some good reason for that. But we've gotten so far away from that. I think there are 2 ways, so we can either collapse the whole thing and start over, or we can infiltrate and get our constitution back and our constitutional rights back. But I think the bigger question there is, can we do away completely with government in the name of self-governance completely and sovereignty and like community that can work together without any kind of oversight, without pooling our money for roadways and war. I think that is the best way. Maybe once we're a little bit more evolved, which I think we're close. I mean, I feel like we're like with this awakening that's happening, however people define that. I would love to see a world where we don't feel that we need the oversight or we don't need to delegate out any power. I think we're capable of that. I don't believe that we're born evil and flawed. I think we have a system that has hijacked humanity in all of its goodness. And once that system is removed, once we're able to be as God intended us to be, I could see a world where we don't have a need for government. But we are where we are. We're going through what we're going through, and this time is what it is for us to stand up for what is right. So as long as we have these people tyrannically ruling over us, I say we have to exhaust every available option, to us. And one of those options is kicking out the bad guys and bringing in the new guard, which is what our Declaration of Independence talks about.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to touch briefly on this image, because this is the thing that got you into, well, not into trouble. I mean, I think it's a very powerful image and very good. It's really, really interesting how powerful their manipulation of people's thoughts is. I'm just going to be careful how I say what I say now.
Yes.
As an example, I was getting my hair cut the other week, and I started talking to my barber in Ireland, in the west of Ireland, right, which is not in America, but in the west of Ireland. And we got into, he knows what I do, and he kind of skirts around it. Okay. And his view is like, well, I don't give a shit about politics. I'm just my life's okay, so I'm happy. I'm all right, Jack. It's that kind of approach. And he said, some of the stuff you talk about crazy stuff, and I like UFOs and spirituality and Donald Trump. And I went, okay, so what's your issue with Donald Trump? And he said, well, he's pro gun laws. I said, well, that is called the Second Amendment. You know why that was put into the Constitution, don't you? And he went, I don't care. Killing children is not on. So he was referring to a recent incident in a school in America. Right. Okay. I'm not saying anything about what that was. I'll just leave it there. And there he is, 3,000 miles away, telling me why he doesn't like somebody based upon one thing. That's how clever they are. That's how brilliant they are. And I said, well, what about all the people that have died from this and all the children that have died from that? That's in the tens, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions, damaged at least. And he couldn't compute, just couldn't compute the thing. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because it's such an evocative subject for people right now. Like gun control, gun control, gun control. It's like abortion. I mean, it's so incredibly divisive, isn't it?
Yes, well, and to be clear, I mean, he might agree with Donald Trump actually on some of our gun laws, because Donald Trump promoted the only part where I differed with him. He promoted for red flag laws at the federal level. So the brainwashing and the ignorance is so extreme that yes, somebody could be going after Donald Trump for Second Amendment. Turns out he actually wasn't even the strongest on Second Amendment. So very interesting, especially with my my ad. I had the same sentiment, because when you look at that photo, when I look at the photo, it's a woman protecting a baby, even if you don't read what it says. And yet many people were triggered, pun intended, to only see, to only talk about like the recent incidents. So our Second Amendment has been completely hijacked to be only about those type of incidents. And the Second Amendment, it's one sentence long. I mean, it's not difficult to understand, and it's really there so that we are able to form militia and keep and bear arms. And we would need militia to overthrow a rogue and tyrannical government. We can't do that if we don't have the same weaponry as our government. And that conversation around those types of incidents that people are not happy about is only allowed to be one about creating laws that take firearms away from law-abiding citizens, which makes no sense, instead of what it should really be about if we care about those incidents, which is a mental health issue. I state a lot some just cold, hard data, which is, yeah, we have a problem in the US with gun deaths. 6 out of 10, every 10 gun deaths, 6 of them are attributed to suicide. The rest of that, the 4 out of 10, it's predominantly black on black murder. And then we have a stat of approximately 70 women a month in the US are assaulted with a firearm by an intimate partner. So domestic violence issue. So the real issue that we have such unhappy people in our country. I mean, we have a real sick culture. We have a problem, but it's not with our Second Amendment. And if you watch mainstream media, which I try not to, that brainwashing, that propaganda is so that when you look at an image literally of a woman protecting a child, you're going to think that woman is going to hurt children. It's so sick. But that's not everyone. That's just what we're shown. And it feels like the majority. I can say, if at least in this district, that's not the majority. That's not the majority of the school of thought. Most people here understand why we need to protect that Second Amendment and what's coming for us if that Second Amendment is taken away. So it's very, very important right to protect. And I hope that my provocative image at least gets people talking about that.
Yeah, me too. I think the biggest issue in that conversation with my barber and other people is that they just don't believe that the governments are tyrannical and corrupt, even though it's in your face, even though you've got a congressman making jokes about having sex with children.
Right.
I mean,
People make it for that too. It's amazing to me. In this district, people are mostly upset about his attack on our Second Amendment. And then it's like, I don't know, maybe a 60-40 split on the comments about children. And for me, that's a deal breaker. You know, if you're going to be in a position of power like that, really servitude, but you have power because you get to make decisions at our border that are going to affect whether or not adults have sex with children. So you can't find things like that funny. Like, let's just say that's all it was, right? It was just a joke. You can't find sex with children funny if you're going to make policy decisions about how to protect those children. So for me, it was a deal breaker. But it's amazing when you talk to people, the cognitive dissonance, because that's another area in our culture that is sick and that we've also been brainwashed, and there's, propaganda about like what's appropriate. So yeah, it's concerning, but regardless, I say, even if nobody was standing with me, I'd still be standing for the truth, but that has no place in government. And we have so much substantiated abuse of children from government officials that I just think any hint of it needs to be kicked out.
Yeah, and close down all the Walmarts while you're at it.
Okay, I can surmise, but I didn't know if there was something specific with Walmart.
Yeah,
I assume many of the major corporations are run by pedophiles, but I don't have.
You have to go research that one. I'm not going to talk about it on YouTube.
Okay. I'll Google it later.
Yeah, well, Google's not the place to go.
Yeah, sorry, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Where did it go? Because DuckDuckGo, I heard, was
they're all
infiltrated as well.
They're all infiltrated. Everything's infiltrated.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just us and God versus the rest of them.
Yeah, well, good for us, because we have the victory then. I say that we're fighting knowing we've already won. So we're just walking through the steps, but we have to know that we have the victory. We can't fight from a place of defeat or a place of maybe or a place of hope. We have to fight from a place of victory, because I think I describe much like giving birth, those labor pains, it gets real ugly before you have the birth. And I think that's what we're experiencing. I think we're experiencing the labor pains and the ugly before we get to the other side. So we don't have a choice but to have an unyielding faith in this time.
Although I did do a show this morning with a birth warrior called Nikita, who you should definitely, when you get in power, you should get her over and change the policies on birth in America. I was talking about orgasmic birth because my twins were born with a painless orgasmic birth. These things don't actually have to be painful is what I'm trying to get to.
Yes, I'm on board with that. And I've only have one child, but when I have another, that's how I'll be doing it. I didn't have all this knowledge when I had him the first time. But yeah, like everything else, it's just another thing that's been hijacked from us.
Totally. Go and watch the show with Nikita if you get time, because
yes, I will.
I've done quite a few shows about birth. I'm a birth warrior. I'm just going to recommend a book for you.
Okay.
I can't believe I'm giving somebody standing for Congress political advice, but I'm just going to find this for you, because it's.
Well, I don't consider myself a politician, so, and I say, like, I'll term myself out. I don't want to be a career politician. This isn't a lifelong goal or a dream. I feel like it's like going to war. You know, I'm prepared to go to war.
It is. This book, Life After the State by Dominic Frisby, is a book I'm recommending to everybody watching this, because it really explains how we really don't need government at all. And it gives a historical perspective on all sorts of things that are really eye-opening, and it doesn't take that long to read. And the other book that everybody should read is G. Edward Griffin's The Creature from Jekyll Island, which, if you're on my email list, which is in the description box below, I send you a free copy of that automatically, or a link to where you can read it. Because it's all about, this whole process is about not just learning about history, but getting true history is the really hard thing that's been to find. Have you been watching any of the stuff about Tartaria at all?
Yes, that's because of everything I listen to. I've picked up bits and pieces. I wouldn't call myself an expert, but yes, I've heard of that.
Well, it's going to be interesting for you. You say you've got. Have you got a help? Have you got a team? You know.
Well, we're a grassroots campaign, and no one is getting paid. Nobody's making money from my campaign. My campaign manager is my aunt. She ran for Congress when she realized. Sorry.
I was saying hello to your auntie.
Yes. She ran for Congress in the last cycle when she realized that things were going south, and so. Yeah, so I have her. She's my main team member, and then I have my volunteers. So we are a grassroots operation. So yes, I have help, but it is all just that. It's help. It's grassroots.
So if anybody's watching this who can actually vote for you in Florida,
yes,
what would you say to them? Why should they vote for you?
I would say, well, first of all, vet your candidates. Very important. Don't just take my word. But I intend to keep my oath. So all of our representatives take an oath to the Constitution to uphold it and to protect our individual liberties. So I intend to keep my oath and to do everything I can to protect those individual liberties. I will do that whether or not I get elected. I'll keep fighting for that. But I do not believe I am corruptible. I think my character over my lifetime and part of the testimony of my life bears that out. I'm not moved by or beholden to money. If you look at my FEC reporting, which all candidates have to report where their money comes from, I purposely have not solicited or taken PAC money, dark money, special interest group money. So I will only be beholden to the people that vote to get me in once I'm in there. And again, the role of government at the federal level is to protect our individual liberties. So I'll be doing things like trying to abolish the U.S. Department of Education, repeal the 16th Amendment, any law that is overreach, which is so many of them. I will be working against those, and of course against any unconstitutional mandates like the ones that have just been coming down hard over the last 2 years.
Well, if I was there, you'd get my vote, unfortunately. I've not voted in a long time. I know that we've won this. Yes. How do you see, in this reality in the next couple of years? How do you see things panning out? What's your viewpoint?
Well, obviously I don't have a crystal ball. I have just been my whole life. It's worked out to my benefit, but I've been an extreme optimist. So I don't know if I'm the best person to give the perspective, because to me, the future I see, like I gave the analogy, which I understand is not the way labor pains. We shouldn't have labor pains. Yes, I get that. But but what we've had that analogy of labor pains. So I think we might have obstacles along the way, like looking even at our history. That's why I think our history is important to look to. They had this wonderful victory on April 19th, 1775, but that was the beginning of like a 7-year war. And they ultimately had the victory. In other words, it wasn't won in a day, but they had the victory. And it turned out the America they created, was better than what they started off with. So I think we may have some obstacle and challenge, so to speak. But I think where we're going is it's better than we could have imagined. I think we're going to end up with a society and a culture and a world that is better than we could have imagined. And I do tend to resonate with the idea of some kind of split, so to speak. So I don't know what that will look like. But, you know, for those of us that acknowledge, like, what our Constitution talks about a creator, and it talks about how we're born sovereign and we're born with these inalienable rights. I think the trajectory is very good, and I have a lot of hope. And I have also, while I have been disturbed by humanity over the last 2 years, I have also been extremely encouraged. It's amazing to me still. I mean, I'm amazed at how many people really have gone inward, have gone to that creator, have gone to source, have gone inward for wisdom, and have said, you know, like, no, I'm going to listen to that. I'm not going to listen to what's happening on the outside. So that gives me extreme hope. I think the trajectory is very positive. We just, no matter what's happening in front of us, no matter, you know, that's what faith is. Things might look discombobulated on the outside, but we have to know that it's all moving in a positive direction. So, and I also, you know, the future of our children, like, I won't accept anything less than brilliant for the future of our children. It's the main reason that I'm fighting. You know, I know you're a parent. I'm a parent. I'm not going to leave my child anything less than the best. So even just from my own, you know, on a very nuclear level, like, no, this is going to work out well. It has to. We don't have the luxury of thinking otherwise.
No, this is it. This is it. And that picture on your poster, by the way, what I see is a lioness.
Thank you.
Protecting her cubs, and that's what we need. That's what I've been saying on this channel since I started it, that we all need to stand up and start speaking and follow those paths wherever it leads us. If it means standing for Congress, stand for Congress. If it means taking over the school boards, take over the school board. If it means growing your own food, grow your own food. It's all
Amen.
part of,
people should grow their own food.
Yeah.
That's a good idea anyway. You know, with all the crap they're putting in stuff, that's just a good idea. Even if we never experience a more severe food shortage. And I actually would love to see, I mean, that's part of, you know, everybody gets to create their own reality. And my reality, I'd like to see us move back to local, you know, depending on our local farmers, and having our victory gardens, and not what we've had. But I do want to say about that picture, while I don't believe our Second Amendment is about personal self-defense, that it really had to do with being able to defend ourselves against our government. I did live that photo out. When I was a single mother, my baby was 10 months old, and in the middle of the night, I had someone beating down my door, and I had to pull a firearm. I had my 10-month-old on my hip. I had my markers lined up at the door, and I had 911 like this.
Wow.
On the cell phone. And the police came in time before he broke through. The door itself, like the door frame, popped through. And I could hear them at that point when it popped through. He went upstairs. I guess he was my upstairs neighbor. I didn't know. And I could hear the police dragging him down the stairs, beating him with a billy club because he was like drunk and out of it and belligerent. But I actually did pull a firearm to protect my child. So, you know, the purpose of that photo is to bring attention to our Second Amendment, and to bring attention to the sex abuse of our children at the border, and, you know, and also pedophilia promotion by people like our current congressman. But I actually did live an experience like that. So it's not completely far off from my real life.
Yeah. I mean, this pedophilia promotion is going on everywhere. Yesterday, I shared a thing on Telegram showing drag queen reading things in primary schools. I know it's been going on in the States for a couple of years. It's now made it here. And wow. It's just extraordinary how the teachers have been brainwashed into supporting this kind of nonsense. It's sick beyond belief. Do you believe in the white hats, black hats, good guys in control, showing us the movie Number 17, all of that stuff, or do you not want to go there?
No, I'm happy to go there. I mean, that's kind of what I was touching on earlier, where so all of this information about a grander plan, I say, like, awesome, bring it on. But I don't think it's a free pass to sit back and do nothing. And we have to, I think, act as though maybe if that's not accurate, if that's not true, we each have to do everything we can in our sovereignty, because to me, there is no free pass. If we're sovereign beings, and I know that we're more powerful than we realize that we are. That's why I think we only need a small majority of people to know and see the truth for the trajectory to change. It's why I have so much faith, because it's why I'm willing to stand alone, because I think I'm powerful and sovereign enough by myself to stand alone. So I encourage people to stand in their own sovereignty, their own power, whatever that looks like, however menial or small they think the task is that they can do. It's much bigger. That's why I say, like, speaking, even just speaking your truth, speaking out against the evil is more powerful than you realize. And then as far as what I guess is, I would say it's speculation about a grander plan. Certainly there's good and evil. So white hats, black hats. Yeah, that's real. You've got, however you want to define it, if you want to call it white hats, black hats, we have good and evil. We have a force of good in humanity and spiritually, and a force of evil in humanity and spiritually, working at odds, so to speak. But I don't put all of my faith is in the God inside of me. I don't put my faith into the plan, though I hope that's accurate. For things like I mentioned, God bless them. I don't know what happened with those endorsements. There have been, with our president, there have been some things I've seen that have been concerning to me. If my faith was in those people or in their plans, my faith would have been shaken, but it's not. My faith is in something greater, and that we're connected to that something greater. So yeah, I don't dismiss any of that. I hope every bit of it is true. But I operate in, my own sovereignty and what I can do for the moment in front of me.
Well, we have that in common. And I've talked about 5D chess being played, which in 3D, there's so many things that have happened that just don't make sense.
Yes.
As you just said. But I'm an apocalyptimist, and I know everything's going to be good. And also, anybody that's watching this that loses faith in any way should go and read The Hero's Journey and Joseph Campbell's book, The Man with 1,000 Faces, because The Hero's Journey is in. Have you heard of The Hero's Journey, Melissa?
I haven't.
No, you'd love it. It's Joseph Campbell, A Man with 1,000 Faces. He basically looked at all the stories that resonated throughout history and that have stood the test of time, and they all have exactly the same structure, which is called The Hero's Journey. And The Hero's Journey, according to David Wilcock's work, is actually embedded into the universe on a macro and a micro level. So each cell in our body follows a hero's journey. Our lives are hero's journeys. The universe, the earth, are all following hero's journeys of various different magnitudes. And to understand the best two examples of the hero's journey are the story of Jesus and Star Wars: A New Hope. And it's all doom right until the very last minute, and then suddenly Luke pops the missile into the Death Star, and 1,000,000 to 1 shot, and then the whole thing's turned around. And that's where I think we're at. We're in the final third act of the hero's journey. And people will get a lot of strength from going and reading and becoming familiar with the hero's journey, because it's real and we're living it. We're in the middle of it. And another thing that popped into my head then was, I read somewhere that when George Washington was fighting, he had a very, very small percentage of support from the American population. Very small.
Yes. Yeah, I did some little bit of research on that, because I heard that too. So, and the percentages vary, but yes, that's the general consensus, is that it was a small percentage, and yet they were able to win. And even that first day, 500 people versus 700 troops, and even they had brought over. The Redcoats didn't bring over all of their weaponry, because they didn't think they were going to need to. They didn't bring over all their cannons. I think they brought over 1 or 2 cannons, but the colonists didn't have any cannons. So it's this. I don't know the hero's journey. I haven't read that, but that the idea I understand, and that resonates with me. And I think for probably a lot of us, we feel that on the inside. It's like there's just a knowing.
Yeah.
And that's why, I mean, I have hope. I have more than hope. You know, I have a knowing that we're going to come out this better than we could have imagined. We just can't let ourselves be swayed to the right or to the left, you know. And yeah, I think the story has been told again and again, the way you're describing in these other stories. This story has been told again and again, and we end up victorious. End of story.
Absolutely. So if anybody's watching this and wants to help you out, where do you want them to go?
My website is my name, melissamartz.com. And like I said, most of what's been donated, or I don't know if I did say this, but most of what's been donated to my campaign has been in kind. So people have donated services and, you know, advertisement and that kind of a thing. But really getting the word out. So if people are willing to share the message, if you want to donate money, that's great too. But you can also donate like by buying some advertisement for us directly. And then you don't even have to give the campaign money because that's where all the money is going to anyway.
Well, Melissa Martz, to me, you're an American hero, and I wish you all the best on your journey.
Thank you. Thank you. You also are a hero. I'm grateful for your work. Thank you for speaking out. I know I mean, it's not always fun or easy. So thank you for doing it.
Well, I do throw the odd gag in, but I do my best. But I wish you all the best anyway, and I hope to see you again. Take care, and come back and let us know how you got on.
Thank you. Yes, August 23rd. I'll send you an email.
All right. Lots of love to you and your family, and best of luck.
Thank you too. God bless.